Hi. So in this video, we're going to go over creating classes and like adding all of the attributes and methods and all of this stuff. And we'll get into it in a second. But we have an earlier video, and I'll link it in the description, about using classes and creating objects and like using them. But this video will be more about creating classes. So we're going to like create whole classes from scratch, and we're going to go in the code editor and pick code, and we're going to do that. But we'll also go over the slides here with the vocab and all that kind of stuff. So why don't we get into it? So this is just a little review of the kind of the stuff that we learned in that earlier video. So in Java, with classes, we have, the point of a class is to create a new data type. So string is a data type, int is a data type, Boolean is a data type. All those things are data types. And if we want to extend what Java can do by creating new data types, that's why we would use a class. So when we do that, we need to select the attributes that we want to have. So I think that the example that I'm going to go over here, yes, it is. The example that I'm going to go through is the person class. So we can go through here, and why don't we just go through the code example? I think with a lot of this stuff, there's a ton of vocab, but it's easier to kind of go through the examples and just see them in action. So with a class, we have instance variables. And so here we're going to get a little bit more into the details and a little bit more like why we do what we do. Instance variables here, when you create an instance variable, you need to select public or private. And in general, when you are creating classes in Java, you're going to default to using private, and we'll get into that in a little bit. And so you select public or private, and then we have the data type of the instance variable. So you're creating a class with a bunch of instance variables, but each of those instance variables needs to have a type in its own. And it makes sense, right? If a person has a name and an age, a name is going to be a string, a collection of letters, and an integer would make sense for your age, because you always say that you're 6 years old, or 99, or 22, or 30, or 37. Those are all integers. So you do all that. You have as many instance variables as you want. You can have 1 million instance variables if you'd like. Java might have a problem, but you can have 1,000 maybe. And then you have constructors. And the point of a constructor is that you're going to use the constructor to set up an instance of your class. So what is an instance of a class? Just, a class. So here we've got the person class, right? An instance of a class would be an individual person that we create in typically our main file. So let's go through. So we've got that. Now, a constructor, the point of the constructor, and again, this is a little bit of review. So if you want to get a little bit more into all this stuff, you can also watch that other video that, again, I'll link in the description. So a constructor is called to create an instance of a class, and that means that you're going to set up all of the instance variables. And so what you see here is that all we're doing in our class constructor is we're going to have parameters that are of the same data type as the instance variables, and then we're going to set the instance variables to equal the values of those parameters. Now, there are situations where the constructor might do other stuff. Maybe you want to set some instance variable to a random number, or I'm not really sure why you do that, but there are other ways in which constructors might work. But for the purposes of the AP exam, 9 times out of 10, you're really just going to have, if you have 3 instance variables, you're going to have 3 parameters. Here, if we've got 2 instance variables, we're going to have 2 parameters. So the constructor, you almost just kind of need to follow this pattern. And in real life and real software development, a lot of the times when you write a constructor, you're just doing this. It's kind of just something you got to do. There are programming languages that automatically create the constructors for you, so those are cool. But right now we're thinking about Java. So here's the difference between public and private. And again, the reason that we're doing this video is to get more of a deep dive. So a public instance variable can be accessed by object name.variable name, and a method that's public can be accessed by doing the object name.method name with the parentheses when you call it. A private instance variable or method can only be accessed within the class. And then what I will say is that for the AP exam, the pattern that you follow, because basically they're just, they don't want you to like think about every different possible variation of this stuff. There will be multiple choice questions in which they do switch things around. But like if you have the right code for the free response questions, again, 9 times out of 10, I can't promise that it's always going to be like this, but 9 times out of 10, when you're creating a class, the pattern that you're going to follow is to make instance variables private, and then we will make methods that are used to access the values of those instance variables. So we're about 5 minutes in, and we're about to write some code. So bear with me a little bit. We still have a little bit more vocab to go through. But we're getting really just about to do the code here. So when you have a private instance variable, in order for your main method, when you create instances of the class, in order for that main method to access the value of the variables, you use the kind of shorthand that most people say is a getter. You name this thing as get. If the instance variable is called name, you say get name. If the instance variable is called age, you say get age. And so like the word that most people use is getter. There's a fancier word, accessor, because you're accessing the value. I don't really typically say that. I would say getter. It's just kind of like the shorthand way that people say it makes more sense. So you'll name it with get and the name of the variable. Okay, and then the other thing you might want to do to an instance variable is set the value. And so we call these setters. And a setter, and the other fancy word for this is mutator. A setter you're going to name with the word set and then the name of the instance variable. And then you're going to have a parameter whose type is the same as the instance variable's type. And then you're, again, 9 times out of 10. Can't promise anything, but 9 times out of 10, your setter is going to have one line of code, and it's going to say that the value of the instance variable is equal to the value of the parameter. Okay, so we've gone over a lot of vocab. Let's write some code. Okay, so I have 2 files here in the code editor. I've got, we can make this a little bit bigger. So I've got a main, and I've got this person.java file. Okay, so person.java is where we're going to be writing most of our code. What we're going to do here is, why don't we go through, we're going to do things for one instance variable, and then to make things more clear, we're going to go through with a second instance variable. Because really what you want to do with this stuff is practice the patterns. A lot of this stuff is going to be, you want to understand the vocab and understand how everything works. But in order to do this stuff quickly, in class or on the free response question on the exam, you're going to want to get into the habit of doing this stuff and kind of have a second nature. You don't want to have to think through the process of creating a getter or a setter every time. You just want that to be something that you can just kind of automatically do. Okay, so here we've got private, right? Again, we say private string name here. So in your main, if you do this, system.out.println p1.name. If you do this, you're going to get a crazy big error. Let's let this connect. Huge error, okay? Name has private access in person. This is actually kind of a nice error. Almost makes a lot of sense. So thank you, Java. It doesn't always work that way with error messages. Private string name, you can do that. If we change it, we can't do it if it's private. If we change it to public, if we look at our main, same main, and we change the class code to make this public, we can get the value of the person's name. Just to make things clear, we can do P2, and my dog is sitting behind me. Dog isn't a person, but maybe we'll just pretend. I'm just going to copy paste this line, and we'll do P2.name, and we got Charlie and Docker. So again, we created the data type once, and then we can create multiple instances of the data type. Should we do something else? Well, let's do something else. So it's NFL season here, and Drake May is the Patriots quarterback. I live in Boston. So we can have this and Charlie, Docker, Drake. Okay. and Drake's also a rapper. We all know that. Okay, anyways, we can get rid of Drake. Shorten up this code. Okay, cool. But again, what we normally want to do for the purposes of the exam, and I don't really super want to get into why this is the way you do it. It's a pattern. It makes the code a little bit cleaner. There are some examples when you've got really big code bases, it's easier to do things with the setters and the getters. Sometimes you want to add extra code to the setters or the getters to do fancy stuff. So following this pattern is good practice. It's typically what people do. Again, there are some programming languages and environments where the setters and getters will be automatically made for you. And someday maybe you'll use one of those programming languages, but maybe not right now. So let's see, public get name, and we're going to return name. Okay, so we've made this. And again, so the reason that we've got this private here and public string get name. Okay. Cool. Name has private, name has private. Okay. So we were accessing the value of the instance variable directly, but if we change this to get name, and if we change this to get name, then we will now be able to see the values of that name instance variable. And the reason that we can do that is because this method is public. If this method was private, I just really want to go through these examples a bunch of times because it's super important. So the methods can be private just like instance variables can be private. So it's really important with your getters and setters that these ones are public. If these ones aren't public, then you're in a lot of trouble. Okay, so this is back to working. Excellent. Now we talked about getters, but we also talked about setters. Setters are void because setters don't return anything. And so we're going to do string new name. Okay. And we're going to do name equals new name. Okay. Well, code hasn't changed. So what we want to do here is we're going to do, let's say p1 dot set name, and we can rename me to Charles, which is my legal name. And then we can print my name out again. And we'll see this. Okay, Charlie, Docker, Charles. Let's get rid of Docker for a second. Sorry, Docker. Okay, just make this a little bit clearer. So we get my name once, and then we set my name, and then we get my name a second time, and it has changed. Okay, so there you go. Okay, so we did that for name and we did that for name. Okay, now let's just go through. This is something that if you're going to write code in the real world, you're going to add instance variables to classes all the time because you're going to want to make your classes more complicated or more interesting, or you've got some new request from your customer when you're writing code for a real company, and you're going to need to add some instance variables. So when you get used to doing this in, if you're working for real as a software engineer, you're just going to second nature know how to do this. So in order to add an instance variable, here's all the things you need to do. You do private, you get the data type is int, age. You're going to add another parameter here. Okay, age equals a. And then a lot of times what I do when I'm working, if I add an instance variable, I'm like, I don't want to type all this again. So I just copy paste it because it's literally the same. Okay, so you say get age, return age, set age. Oh, and then here we got to do int because it's an int. And then here we're going to do int new age. And we're going to say age equals new age. Okay. Maybe my face was in the way there. So we're going to say get age set, and then you want to do capital H. Okay. So you almost always do this, right? You have the getter, you have the setter, you have the getter, you have the setter, and you do that for every instance variable. Seems like a lot of work. It kind of is a lot of work. And again, that's why people, sometimes want to make this happen automatically. They're probably, I'm not a Java expert, so there probably are ways in Java to make this happen automatically, honestly. So no hate to Java, just saying that for the purpose of the AP exam, it is a lot of writing, but you got to get used to it. Okay, got it. So big error because we didn't provide an age. And currently, as of the writing of this video, I am 30. Okay, and so we set my name to Charles. Now we can system dot. Oh my gosh, typing is hard this morning. Print line p1 dot get h. And we'll see 30. Now, okay. And then we're going to do p1 dot set. So let's say it's my birthday. Haven't typed anything right yet. And then we're going to copy this and should be the same age and see Charlie, Charles, 30, 31. Whew. We just want to go through the patterns though, just so we kind of get used to them. And again, you're going to want to write a bunch of code like this so you can practice so that everything makes sense for what you do in class and again, for the exam. Okay, so that's getters, setters, public, private, all this sort of stuff. Okay, now hopefully you're going to have more methods than just getters and setters. You're going to want to do more interesting stuff. So I am going to use an example here. Let's do this. So let's do, because you can have as many methods as you want. So public void, because it's not going to return anything. Public void, let's say hi. Okay. And so we can system.out.println, spelled it right that time. Hi, my name is name plus, and my age is, but you would not talk like that. And I am age years old. Okay. So now we can do p1 dot say hi. Hi, my name is Charles and I'm 31 years old. And I didn't put my space here, so let's put my space here. And hi, my name is Charles and I am 31 years old. Amazing. And let's just make it a little bit more clear. Let's do this before we do the setting of anything. And we should use the original values that we had in the constructor. Hi, my name is Charlie and I am 30 years old. Okay, beautiful. So this is working great. And so we can kind of get rid of some of this stuff because it's sort of annoying me. Okay. Yeah, great. Perfect. So we can write other methods. So I have written an example here that it goes through. And so let's just say we had an instance variable called height in feet. That's something that we could do. I'm not going to go through that process again because it's going to take us another 5 minutes or 3 minutes. Maybe I'll go faster, or a minute and 30 seconds. But if we had an instance variable called height in feet, we could make a method that has type. There's a bug here. So this is not an int. There's no semicolon here either. So this is kind of buggy. I need to change my slides. But can you spot the error? I'll give you 10 seconds or 3 seconds. This should be double, right? Because 3.1 is a decimal number. And so, if your height in feet divided by 3.1 gives you your height in meters, that's going to be an issue if you declare the method as type int when really it should be double. Okay, and little cut here. We just paused for a second because Docker, the dog, had to get water in the room behind me, so I had to do that. So anyways, we're back to Java. And so yeah, this method needed to return double. Okay. Now we've got a few examples of methods. I think we did all of these. Get name, set name, say hello. Yeah. So I knew what was going to be on the slides. I remembered. Okay. Cool. So now a little bit of a extra thing here. This is not something that's going to be like super common on the exam. I doubt it's going to be on your free response questions. 9 times out of 10, can't promise anything, but likely not on the free response. Likely you will have a multiple choice question on this, I would guess. Greater than 50% chance there's a multiple choice question, so you do kind of need to know it. Static variables and methods. So a static, typically, static method or a static variable, those are accessible by doing class name dot instance variable, class name dot method. And I'm trying to think of something that would make sense in the person class, and I can't think of one. But what I can think of is the math class. So this is like your primary example of this. Print line, right? Math.random. When you use math is the name of a class. When you use math.random, are you ever making a new math object? You're not doing, math, my math equals new math. You don't do that. And you don't do my math.random, right? Right. So we've kind of like taken this for granted. Back when we learned about the math class, we probably didn't think about classes at all. But math is a class. It's a class in school and it's a class in Java. Math is a class. And so the random method is a static method on the math class. So, that's just something to think about there. You can make a static, so we can do public static random for no reason. Okay, so we can have a static method there, and we can return 7. Okay, so here, what did I type? Person.random number for no reason. There's really not a good reason why you'd have a static method. And what did I do here? Public static int. So yeah, we can print that out. But you'll notice here, I didn't do P1. If we did P1.random number for no reason, it's not going to work. It is going to work. That's a Java fun fact that I didn't know. But if we got rid, let's just say we got rid of all of this, we can still do person.random number for no reason. I'm going to have to go back and look at that. That's actually quite surprising to me that we could do P1.random number for person. But this is if you have a static method or instance variable, you can use them without creating an instance of the class. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Scope and access. Okay. So this one's actually sort of self-explanatory. We've got, basically when you think about it, instance variables you can access anywhere in your class. So I'm using the variable name, the instance variable name, and the instance variable age down here in this say hi method. Okay. But let's just say, for no particular reason, we do int x equals 13. Okay. Can we print x here in the other method? I do not think we can. Yeah, we can't. Okay. So if you declare, but we can print x here if we wanted to. Okay. So you can use variables inside of the method in which they're declared. You can use parameters inside of the method in which they're declared. You can use instance variables in the class in which they're declared. And then if you have like a for loop, this is still related to int I equals 0, I less than 10, I plus plus. We don't actually need to do anything in this loop, but can we do this? I don't think so. Very much doubt that we can do that. Yeah. Cannot find symbol, which means cannot find variable, basically. So I is not available outside of the for loop. Okay. So that's kind of scope and access for them. Okay. So then there's a keyword in Java called this. Now, this, the word, the keyword, as they call it, this allows you to do this. So hard when the variable is like this, or the keyword is this like really common word. You see how we, like, maybe it wasn't obvious that we've always done it this way, where it's like, for some reason we name the parameters something different than the instance variable. And that's because if we do this, Java's going to get confused. Because, let's do it. I very much doubt that this is going to work. I'm so certain that it's not going to work. Yeah, it's not going to do it right. My name is null and I'm 0 years old. Doesn't quite make sense, right? Null, that's not good. 0 years old. And that's because name equals name. It's saying like the parameter should be set to be equal to the parameter value. So if we want to have our parameters be the same name as the instance variables, the way that we kind of say that on the left-hand side of this, we definitely want to use the instance variable. The most specific way in which we can do that is by saying this.name. So now this will definitely work. Yeah, so our code is back to working because the parameters for the constructor had the same same name as the instance variables. And so the way that we can be very specific and say, I really want to use the instance variable and not something else when I'm, writing some line of code, you do this dot instance variable's name, and it'll work. Now you can also, if you have a class where you want to use methods in it, you can do this dot method name and call a method like that. That's that. And you can always do this, even if there's no confusion. Anytime you use an instance variable, you can do this dot and it'll always work. People just don't like doing it because it's kind of like using just the name of the instance variable without this dot makes it simpler, or looks simpler. It looks like cleaner. It's like a little bit shorter. It's a little bit easier to type. But the code with this is always going to be right. So you could, anytime you use an instance variable, use this dot and it's going to work perfectly correctly. It's just people like the shorthand. The trade-off, the reason why, the shorthand kind of becomes annoying when you've got these parameters and you have to name the parameter something different. So sort of just different styles. You can use things either way, but this dot is a thing that you can do in Java, and it's going to be more specific. And if you use this dot, we could do this dot age, and then we could name this parameter age, and it would work, which is kind of cool. So makes things somewhat simpler, somewhat more complicated, kind of personal preference. But you should be used to seeing code that works either way. And that is the final slide that I have for this video. And we got more specific again, kind of reviewing what we went over. We knew about classes and we did a little bit of work with them in that prior video that I'll link in the description. And you should watch that first before this, although now you've gotten to the end of the video, so you've already watched this video. But if you want some more stuff, you can go watch that video. And we got more specific about getters, setters, static, we made a bunch of different methods, public, private. Went over all that stuff. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.